Thank you very much for joining today's webinar. It's going to be on 10 searching and filing tips for leveraging the full power of VC. It's going to be hosted by myself, Sebastian Heinrich. I'm one of the account managers here, and my colleague, George Brown, who is our key account manager here at VC. I'm going to hand you over to George now, who's going to run through the agenda of today's webinar. So I'm going to pass you over to George now.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're well. Thank you for taking the time out to come and listen to Seb and I talking about searching and filing within VC. Hopefully you'll find it reasonably useful. I think it will probably take about 20-25 minutes there or thereabouts, so reasonably short, but I tend to take the view back in the old days when I did new user training and refresher training that if you can't teach someone how to file and find in 20 minutes, then it's probably overly complicated. So you can see roughly what we're going to go through there. I think the only two bits that I will sort of pick out are the best practice bits. I can't stress strongly enough how much best practices help when you are trying to find stuff. If stuff isn't filed consistently and accurately and sensibly, then it doesn't matter how good you are at searching, the stuff is basically in the middle of nowhere and it'll be a pain to get hold of. So the best practice will be something that you hear me going on about a fair amount. And questions finally at the end. If you come up with any questions kind of as we go, please just pop them in the question box and we will either answer them there or then, or probably more likely answer them at the end of the webinar. But please do ask. We actively encourage audience participation. So if there's anything you want to know, let us know.
Thank you, George. So right here we've got a survey, which is quite interesting. It asks the number of workers, how many hours per week they spent on particular tasks. So what's interesting is it wasn't just necessarily filing documents and searching, which were time consuming. It was the creating of documents, approving of documents, signing those documents, and reviewing those documents. So I'm not sure if you're all aware, these are all something that Virtual Cabinet can help you with. So we've got a module which is called document creation, which can obviously help you with creating those documents. We've got a task module which can help you with document approval, reviewing documents. We basically can set up workflows for any of the particular processes that you guys might have. And then in terms of signing documents, we've also got the Virtual Cabinet portal, which allows you to send documents safely and securely, allows your clients to electronically sign those. So no need to print or email any unsensitive. If you're not familiar with these modules, we have done a whole load of webinars on them, which can be found on our YouTube channel, which is just Virtual Cabinet. Alternatively, we're going to be showing you the account managers at the end. So feel free to get in touch with your account manager if you want to discuss in a bit more detail on how these all work. Now, I'm going to jump into a demonstration just to show you quick and easy ways of adding documents into VC. So I'll go through the hot folder, the Office add-ins, and conversational re-indexing, which will make sense just in a second. So I'm just on my desktop here, as you can see. So I've got a couple of documents here. I've got the hot folder as well. So the idea behind the hot folder is just to make adding documents into VC quicker and easier. So for example, you might be downloading documents onto, downloading from your practice management system and want to get them quickly into VC. You might have a client who comes into the office, gives you a hard drive or a memory stick of 100 documents, and you need to quickly get them into VC. What we can essentially do is we select the documents that we want to grab, and we literally just drag and drop into the hot folder. That then gives us Virtual Cabinet prompt, so you can file it away into your own in tray, and you can pass it on to a colleague's in tray, or you can index directly from VC. So just for the purpose of demo, I will index directly into VC. I'm going to select client accountancy just here. I'm going to select the document type. Let's just say working papers, nice and easy. And then just the client name. So let's say Linden House. So once I'm happy with that, all the information's been populated, and I can just file that away and easily into VC. Those documents have been successfully filed. So I can then carry on with whatever I was working on away. And another quick and easy way is to use the Microsoft add-ins that we have. So a lot of you might be familiar with these already. If not, we can show you and we can get these set up as well. So this is the Word add-in. We've got the same for Excel. So you can see we've just got a blank document here with webinar. I can then just select Virtual Cabinet tab, and I've got the same options as we had before. We can even link documents as well. Now, if I click on indexing, it's just going to ask me to choose the file name. I can quickly do that and then select the folder I want to file that into, and then select, we'll go working papers again, same client as well. So the idea behind this is you're not having to save these documents to your desktop. You're not having to then go from your desktop, file it to your in tray. You can directly from Word or from Excel, you can file straight into Virtual Cabinet. So effectively saving you time and obviously saving you money. So nice and easy way of filing directly in. So if you haven't already got these set up, do get in contact with us, and the help desk can set these up for you, or contact myself or George or your account manager, and we can get those all sorted as well. I'm just going to quickly go on to conversation rules, which is an interesting module of ours that not everybody's aware of. So some of you might be using the Outlook add-in here, the Outlook pane to index your emails. So the way the email conversation rule works is rather than you having to manually file each email away, you can basically set up a rule. And once you file the first email, any email in that thread will be automatically captured and filed into that same client folder or client cabinet for you. So it's nice and easy. You can see all the information is already pre-populated. So it's linked into Linden House, and we've just got the email conversation rule ticked here. So what that does, as I said before, is that's just going to, any reply to this particular email is going to be captured in the same client correspondence folder within VC. So all these indexes. If you then perhaps started talking to your client about something that wasn't necessarily needed to be indexed into VC, perhaps something that they had planned for the weekend, all you have to do is untick the email conversation rule, and that will stop the automatic capturing of those emails. If the conversation resumes, then you can obviously just index again and set up the conversation rule. So real straightforward stuff. If this is of interest, do let us know, and we can get it all sorted for you. I'm going to jump into VC here and just show you how to re-index. So not everybody's perfect, so we can obviously make mistakes. So you might have filed a document in the wrong place. You might actually have a client who's changed their name, potentially got married. You might have a client that has become an ex-client, hopefully not too regularly. But the idea behind re-indexing is just as straightforward as selecting the documents you wish to re-index. I'm happy with all the initial indexing information that when we originally filed this away. The only thing I want to do is change the client name. So if I delete Linden House Software out of here, and I want to just re-index these all as Ben Oliver, I can then just refile that, and all of those documents are going to be re-indexed under Ben Oliver for us. So it is worth mentioning, we do also have a document retention module, which can actually, if a client does become an ex-client, we can automatically take this process, look after this process for you, so you don't actually have to manually re-index each document. I'm going to jump back into presentation for you. I'm just going to hand you over to George, who's going to go through a few filing tips. You are, George?
Hi, yep, thanks, nice. Cheers, Seb. Hi, everyone. Right, if any of you have had the dubious pleasure of being on any of my webinars before, you will probably be aware of how much I go on about automation. I will do that again now, and I cannot stress strongly enough how much you should be automating as much of this stuff as humanly possible. It doesn't just take the element of human error out of the equation, it also takes the element of human effort. So you end up with more accurate filing that takes less time. And I mean, ultimately, who doesn't want that to be the case? So automation is absolutely key. And if there is anything you're doing that you think could be easier or could be automated, get in touch with us, because it will dramatically improve your working life, I can assure you. The other bit, aside from automation, for the things that you are doing manually, I would also try to stress quite strongly that your virtual cabinet setup is done in a sensible manner. If someone is being forced to file 20 pieces of information every time they put a document into VC, it will not only drive them mad, but they will also try to get around it by leaving stuff blank, not filling fields in properly, generally leaving a trail of garbage behind them that when you need to go and find that particular document, you can't, because they have grown so frustrated over time that they couldn't be bothered to do it properly, and now you are suffering as a result. So keep your VC set up nice and slick. And point 4, keep it checked regularly. The world changes, people change, employees change, owners change. If you are still using the same filing structure as you did when you had VC installed 5 years ago, there is every possibility that it can be dramatically refined. And all those things that people have been silently grumbling about for however long can probably be taken away with a minimum of effort and a minimum of fuss. So if you feel that is the case with your VC, please let us know and we can get on there and have a little look to see if there's anything easy we can do. And the last point is consistency. You really need some generally accepted method by which documents are being filed. I think the biggest issue I come across when people can't find documents, and this is even within the same team of people, is that they are filing things in a different manner to one another. So one guy is sat there filing things in one way, the woman sat next to him is filing them in a different way, and when they try to find each other's documents, they can't, because neither of them really knows how the other one filed it. And I've seen that with people who sit next to each other. So just try to keep on top of it, try to keep people aware of what is expected of them, but also that if they do things the right way the first time, and this goes with any piece of software, if they do things the right way the first time, then when they come back to do it later, or someone needs to find something that they want, nobody is getting angry about it because everyone's doing things in the same way in a nice, clean system where half of it is automated in an ideal world. I'm going to show you a few bits and pieces that I think are valid in terms of searching, that in my experience of trekking around the country, going to different client sites of varying different sizes and industries, the most common issues that I see when I find people searching, it's normally that they don't know that this stuff exists. So hopefully there will be a couple of new bits in here for you, which I will show you now. 2 seconds. Right, so here I have a search on a client file, which Seb did earlier. So this is the full Linden House software client file. Some people will genuinely just come into VC, stick that in there and press go. That is unnecessary and putting a silly load on the server and probably affecting other people's work, because what you're doing is you're putting one word in. You've got, let's say, 1 million documents in VC and 40 indexes. So when you put that word in there, you're asking it to check in 40 million places for that particular word. No need for it to do that. First bit I would do about searching is get your cabinet and then just stick your client code or your client name into a drop-down box, which hopefully is integrated with your other software. Press go, and then if you've got 1 million documents, you're only looking over one index, so you've immediately cut your search sort of distance from 40 million documents to 1 million documents, which obviously is much, much kinder to the server. So here we are now with a full client file. What I want to do is find a particular document within that file. So I have 73 results here with you guys, and particularly with some of my clients, they might have maybe 30 or 40,000 documents against a single client code. So if you do a search on that, you wouldn't do that with a paper file. You wouldn't just go and grab 40,000 bits of paper and chuck them on the floor and try and find the one document you're after. You would, quite logically, start to try to granulate that search and bring it down from a very large amount to a much more manageable amount, and then you can start to look for the specific document or documents that you're after. So the first thing I would do is use grouping. This is whereby you essentially transform the results in VC into a replica of the old paper file or the old Windows folder structure file that you would have had pre-virtual cabinet. Very easily done. You just grab the top of the column, drop it a centimeter up where it says drag a column header here. I mean, it's almost like hidden in plain sight, but a lot of people don't know it's there. Drop it there. That then groups all of those documents into all of the disparate types that we have in our lists. So here I can see already how many documents I've got in each area, what they are, what, roughly where they sit within VC. And obviously I can expand those out. And now I've only got 14 documents in this particular area that I'm bothered about finding. So what I would then do on top of that, once I've got it down to a manageable amount, is I would start using filters in here. So again, hidden in plain sight, there's a thing that says filter. You click on it, and then you can type in whatever you like fee, for example. That will then take everything out that isn't a fee note, effectively. So I have suddenly gone from having 250 results in a big mess, and with what, 3 mouse clicks and a bit of typing, I've got it down to 5 documents that I'm reasonably comfortable are going to be the ones that I'm after. But again, I can't now immediately see what those 5 documents are. So again, what I do instead is I now refine my search once more, but in terms of how these results are presented to me. And that's done with these 3 buttons here. The one I tend to use most in practice is this preview view. And what that then does is it gives you on the right-hand side a thumbnail of what each of these documents are. I mean, as it happens, these ones are all the same, but should they be different, I can then start to expand my preview out a bit, and I can tell some of those figures a bit more accurately. If I really like the old-fashioned paper file, what I would then do is click on this 3rd view, and then I can just flick through it as if it is basically a paper file. So I can very easily see, if I'm looking for an HMRC one, I've got bang, HMRC, I've got it there, no problem at all. A couple of other little tiny bits that I will show you that I think will help. So that is just that bit that I've just done there is my suggested method of getting to where you want to go with a minimum of fuss. There will, of course, always be exceptions to this rule, hopefully not too many of them, but just a couple of other little tips that people might find useful is one on file extension. If you know that the document that you are looking for is a Word letter that's gone out, if it's a PDF that's been scanned in, if it's an email that someone has sent or received, in this file extension, you just type in .pdf, hit go, and then that will only, just get out of that view, 2 seconds. That will only then return PDFs in my results. So I can then immediately discount 80% of the documents in VC because I know they're not ones I want. I don't need them in my search results. Get rid of them. Job done. So that's one thing. The other thing that I think would probably be handy, and a lot of people also don't know about, is this little question mark in the top right-hand corner of VC. That opens the help guide for Virtual Cabinet itself. It's a reasonably weighty tome. I would probably suggest that you have something specific to search for rather than reading from beginning to end. But in the context of this webinar, I would suggest, I'm not going to do a demo of these, but we can use what are called Boolean operators within that top search bar. So you could have, I want Ben Oliver or Linden House. I want Ben Oliver and Linden House. I want tax but not payroll. I want tax and payroll but not pensions. You can really start to mess about with what you can return, but there's quite a lot of it. So if you're desperately trying to find something that you can't, or you get really good at using these, I would highly recommend them. And they are there in the user guide for you to see should you so desire. Right, that I think is probably enough from me on the demo. So I will give you back to Sebastian, who can just run through a couple of these tips, which in fairness to him, I've probably covered most of anyway. So yeah, crack on, Seb.
Yeah, thank you, George. You definitely did cover most of those. So yeah, just to reiterate, the combination of search bar and index searching. You know, if you're going to have a lot more documents to each one of your clients than we do on this demonstration account. So by using the combination of the search indexing as well as keywords, it's just going to save you guys a hell of a lot more time when it comes to pulling back documents. Be specific but not lengthy. As George said, if you are specific on the searching, it's going to bring those back. And if you do want to start using the keyword tones, then by all means, start using those. Date range is an interesting one. That's probably one you haven't actually covered there, George. So if I quickly jump back into VC, the way the date ranges works, you might be familiar with this, you might not. The date range basically allows you to search on obviously specific dates. So you could choose, let's say, for example, if I wanted to do a date range, we've obviously filed some documents today. If I wasn't particularly sure, I know I filed a document this week, I might have misfiled the document completely under a different client. I can choose this week's date and I can hit search, and no matter where the document is being filed, I can just find, right, okay, these documents were filed on today's date, and then we can then re-index it to the correct client, or do whatever you need to with that particular document. So it's really straightforward, the document date range. In terms of the webinar, that's probably brought us up to a finish now. We've got a couple of questions. Well, we've got quite a few questions, to be honest, which I'm not sure we're going to be able to get through all of them today. So we will come back to you if we haven't covered your questions today. The first one we've got is, how can I assure everyone's VC is set up the same? Do you want to take that one, George?
Yes, I will. Thank you. Yeah. So as you may have seen there, my VC wasn't set up possibly quite the same as yours is. You can move columns around, you can change their widths, you can set default views and so on and so forth. And everyone's can be different because different people work in different ways. That's absolutely fine. One thing I would say is that if you don't like the standard default view in VC and you want all of your users, particularly new starters, to all be working from the same blank canvas, as it were, we can take your gold standard view that you want to be your default and we can roll it out to the whole company. Just get your IT to speak to us, or get your internal IT, external IT, whatever, to give us a call, or ask us to call them, and we can sort it out between us once you've decided what you want your VC to look like. So yeah, very, very easily done.
Thank you, George. The next question we've got is, can we bulk re-index? So yeah, bulk re-indexing is something we can do. I mentioned before, if you do have an ex-client cabinet and you are manually re-indexing each one of those documents, we can help you with that, and automatically we can bulk re-index those for you. We can also set up document retention, which specific document retention rules, which for archiving, or as well as an ex-client rule. So with that, get in touch with your account manager and we can discuss that in a bit more detail for you. Next question is, searching for third-party. Can you search from third-party software?
Yes, probably is the sensible answer I can give to that. As you may or may not be aware, I've done a couple of webinars on integrations and how they work and what they do. If you are not using an integration and feel like you should be, and the answer is you probably should be, I'd recommend having a look at those integration webinars. But for the purposes of this particular moment of searching, if you're using Digita, Iris, CCH, something along those lines, there should be an integration sufficiently good that you can click on a button, it brings back the client file, and then you can start with the grouping and the filtering and the views and so on to get to where you want to be. But anything, a searching integration is like a very, very basic, tiny automation, which, as you know, I'm a big fan of. I would speak to us about it, because if you can click once and get a client file back, that is better than copying and pasting a client code into VC, going from one program to another, hitting return, and then flicking back between the two. So yeah, give us a shout and we'll see what we can do for you. Is the best answer I can give on that one without specifics.
And the last question we're going to have time for today is, how do we set up conversation rules? So conversation rules is obviously to automate the need to file emails. So if you are after getting conversation rules set up, just get in contact with your account manager. They can either run through a demonstration with you or get that set up on the day. So yeah, thank you very much, everybody. We've got pictures here of obviously the account managers. You might know already who your account manager is. If not, feel free to get in contact with myself and George, and we can point you in the right direction. But on behalf of myself, Lee and Ken, thanks very much for joining today's webinar. Thank you very much.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope there was something in there that was of some use to you. And if we don't speak to you tomorrow, have a lovely weekend. Thank you again for coming.